You are sitting in seat 22A with one carry-on under the seat in front of you, watching the same gate number on your phone for the third time. Then the captain makes an announcement: the airport has a radar problem. Your plane is not broken. The runway is still there. The sky looks clear. But every flight around you has just become part of a much larger traffic problem. At the first level, you are simply trying to leave. Your departure board says 6:40 p.m. Then 7:05. Then awaiting updates. The gate agent does not tell you that every flight is canceled, because it is not. Instead, the airline pauses departures while it waits to learn what traffic can still move safely. You see one plane push back then stop. Another aircraft lands, but no aircraft appears at your gate. The terminal begins to feel like nothing is happening. In reality, too many things are happening at once. Radar is one-way. Controllers build a live picture of where aircraft are, how fast they are moving, and which direction they are heading. The airport does not need radar to make a runway physically exist. It needs a trusted picture of the traffic using the airspace around that runway. The tower also cannot treat every aircraft the same. A large arriving jet, a smaller regional aircraft, a helicopter, a medical flight, and a vehicle crossing a runway all create different timing problems. Normal radar lets the system combine those moving pieces efficiently. A reduced picture does not remove the work. It makes each decision slower because confidence has to be rebuilt before the next instruction is given. Airports also have other layers: radio communication, visual observation from the tower, flight plans, aircraft reports, and backup procedures. But those layers do not instantly replace the capacity of a modern radar picture. They usually reduce how many aircraft can be handled at one time. The catch is that the first delay looks harmless. 10 minutes feels like an inconvenience. But the aircraft at your gate cannot leave until the airplane that should be using its next gate can move. That incoming aircraft cannot move until its arrival sequence is safe. And your crew cannot wait forever, because crews have legal duty time limits. This is where it gets uncomfortable. The airport can be open while your travel day is already falling apart. At passenger level, uncertainty is the product you feel first. A gate agent may have a crew ready, an aircraft ready, and a full plane ready to board, but they still cannot promise a new time until the airport gives the airline a new capacity picture. The most honest answer can sound unhelpful: no one knows yet. That is not because nobody is working. It is because every answer depends on aircraft and decisions that have not happened yet. One delayed plane is annoying. The next level is what happens when the tower must manage the sky with a smaller, slower picture. At the second level, you are in the tower. You can still see the runway. You can see the taxiways, the vehicles, and some aircraft moving on the ground. But the job is not only to watch what is directly outside the window. The job is to coordinate aircraft arriving from dozens or hundreds of miles away, aircraft climbing out, aircraft crossing nearby routes, and the small timing gaps that keep them separated. The immediate move is not to keep operating normally. It is to slow the operation down. Controllers separate aircraft using layers of information and agreed procedures. A radar display gives a continuously updated track. Without that normal display, controllers may rely more heavily on reports from pilots, visual confirmation, and wider coordination with neighboring control facilities. The key word is separation, the protected space in time and distance that keeps aircraft from converging. When the information becomes less immediate, the system generally needs more separation. More separation means fewer arrivals and departures per hour. The catch is that you cannot simply tell every airplane to wait in the same place. The airport is connected to a web of routes, weather patterns, fuel limits, connecting flights, and other airports that are still sending traffic toward it. A tower cannot solve a regional traffic problem by looking harder out of the window. It has to coordinate upward and outward. And each extra radio call takes time. Slowing traffic protects the runway. But now the delayed aircraft have to go somewhere. That is where arrivals become the next problem. At the third level, you are on an aircraft still in the air. You expected to land in 18 minutes. Instead, the captain says the airport is spacing arrivals. Your plane begins flying a longer route, or it may wait farther away while controllers rebuild the arrival sequence. You do not see a dramatic emergency. You see the map on the seatback screen bend into a longer line. An arrival sequence is a moving queue. Aircraft are arranged so they reach the runway with safe gaps between them. Under normal conditions, controllers can make small continuous adjustments to speed, heading, and order. When radar capacity is unavailable or restricted, those adjustments become more conservative. A flight may be delayed before it reaches the immediate airport area, or it may be redirected toward a different location if the delay becomes too long. The system prefers controlled choices early over desperate choices late. For passengers, an earlier delay can look like bad service. In aviation, it can be the safer option. A flight held at its departure airport still has a gate, fuel, ground staff, and choices. A flight kept moving toward a constrained airport has fewer choices with every mile. The calm decision at the beginning often prevents the visible crisis at the end. The catch is fuel. Airlines plan fuel for the route, expected delays, alternates, and contingencies. But fuel is not an infinite waiting room. If holding or rerouting grows, an aircraft may need a new plan before the passengers even know there is a problem. Here is what nobody tells you: the first airport delay can become a decision at another airport because every extra minute in the air changes what options remain. Once arrivals slow, the terminal below begins filling with airplanes that cannot leave. The next level is the ground system that most passengers never notice until it stops moving. At the fourth level, you are an operations coordinator watching a board full of gates, aircraft, crews, bags, fuel trucks, catering vehicles, and connection times. An incoming aircraft lands late. Its gate is still occupied. That occupied aircraft cannot depart because its departure slot has been delayed. So the arriving airplane waits on a taxiway or at a remote stand. One airplane without a gate becomes a problem for the next 3 airplanes. A gate is not just parking. It is a timed handoff point. Passengers leave, cleaners enter, bags unload, bags load, fuel may arrive, catering may arrive, crew changes may happen, and the next passengers board. Each of those tasks has a small window. When the aircraft arrives late, every service window moves. This is called a turnaround, the coordinated work that prepares one aircraft for its next flight. A fast turnaround is not one task done quickly. It is many tasks arriving in the right order. Baggage creates its own chain. Bags for connecting passengers may need to move across the terminal before a later flight closes its doors. A delayed arrival can turn a 10-minute connection into an impossible one, even if the passenger reaches the next gate. The aircraft may wait for a customer. It usually cannot wait for every late bag, crew member, fuel truck, and service vehicle at the same time. The catch is that the airport cannot create spare gates on demand. A full airport has limited places to put aircraft, and moving one plane out of the way may require another plane to move first. Ground traffic becomes its own puzzle. This is where the delay becomes visible. Passengers see aircraft parked away from the terminal, gates changing, and bags arriving late. But the deeper problem is that the airport's physical layout now has to absorb an airspace problem. Gates can delay an airplane. Crew schedules can end its day completely. That is the next level. At the 5th level, you are a pilot or flight attendant watching the delay clock. You have already worked part of the day. You still need to fly the next leg, perhaps another leg after that, and complete required checks. Your airline may be able to delay the airplane. It cannot ignore crew duty limits. The move is to protect the crew schedule before a manageable delay becomes an illegal or unsafe workday. Crew duty time is the period in which a crew is assigned to work, including more than the minutes spent in the air. Rules differ by country and operation, but the principle is consistent. Fatigue is managed before it becomes a safety problem. A delayed crew can trigger a crew misconnection. the people needed for the next flight are no longer available when the aircraft is ready. The airplane may be fueled, boarded, and mechanically perfect. It still cannot go without a legal crew. This is why a delay sometimes changes from minutes to overnight with almost no visible warning. The airport can recover a gate. An airline can rebook a passenger. But a crew that has reached its limit needs rest, not a faster boarding process. That rule can feel inflexible at the gate because it is supposed to be inflexible before fatigue becomes part of the risk. The catch is that crews are not interchangeable pieces. A replacement must be qualified, available, positioned correctly, and within their own limits. At a busy airport, replacement crews may already be committed to other delayed flights. The limitation is not only the radar issue anymore. It is time. Every minute of delay is quietly spending crew time that the rest of the schedule expected to use later. Once crews begin timing out, the airline stops solving one flight at a time. It has to solve the network. At the 6th level, you are in an airline operations center. On one screen, you see the affected airport. On another, you see aircraft that will miss their next destinations, passengers who will miss connections, and crews who will wake up in the wrong city tomorrow morning. The move is to protect the network's most important flows first. Not every flight can be saved. The airline decides which disruptions create the smallest total damage. Airlines operate aircraft in chains. A plane that flies from city A to city B may be scheduled to continue to city C, then city D. The same is true for crews. One delay can be inherited by every later flight using that aircraft or crew. Operations centers use recovery, the process of adjusting aircraft, crews, gates, and passenger connections after a disruption. Recovery is not restoring the original plan. It is building the least bad new plan from the resources still available. The passenger-facing version is a new boarding time or a rebooking notice. The network version is much larger. A delayed aircraft can strand a crew in the wrong city, remove seats from a later flight, and leave passengers who were never near the radar outage without a connection. The schedule is a chain, and recovery decides which links can still be saved. The catch is that protecting one route may hurt another. If an aircraft is diverted to save an international departure, a smaller regional route may lose its airplane. If a crew is reassigned to protect a heavily booked flight, another group of passengers may wait until the next morning. By now, an airport radar problem is no longer located at one airport. It is moving through every city touched by that day's schedule. Airlines can rearrange their own planes. They cannot control the rest of the airspace. The next level is what happens when the wider system absorbs the slowdown. At the 7th level, you are coordinating across multiple control facilities and airports. Flights headed toward the affected airport may be slowed before departure. Some may be rerouted. Other airports may receive unexpected aircraft, unexpected passengers, and unexpected demand for gates, fuel, crews, and hotels. The move is to spread the disruption rather than let it pile into one place. Air traffic is a network of handoffs. One control area passes an aircraft to another. One airport feeds passengers into another. One delay changes the traffic expected at the next point in the chain. A flow restriction is a broad adjustment that limits or spaces traffic entering a constrained area. It is not a punishment for passengers. It is a way to prevent a local capacity drop from becoming a dangerous rush of aircraft toward the same bottleneck. The catch is that every restriction produces side effects. A departure held in another city may miss its arrival bank. A diverted flight may require buses, hotel rooms, and baggage handling where none had been planned. Passengers who never intended to visit the affected airport can still lose a connection because their incoming aircraft was delayed somewhere else. The system is designed to share load. That also means it shares failure. A neighboring airport may suddenly receive aircraft it did not expect, while another airport holds departures that were supposed to arrive in a busy evening bank. Hotels, buses, customer service lines, baggage rooms, and even airport parking can feel the disruption. The radar problem is technical. The consequence becomes physical, human, and spread across a map. At this point, the question changes. It is no longer when will radar come back. The real question is what every level has been depending on all along. At the final level, you stop looking for one missing screen or one delayed airplane. You look at the people making the calls. Controllers, pilots, dispatchers, gate agents, ramp crews, operations planners, and passengers are all working from partial information while the system changes around them. The move is human: slow down, verify, communicate, and refuse to pretend that normal capacity still exists. Every previous level shared the same dependency: trusted coordination. Radar creates a shared picture. Flight plans create expectations. Gates create handoff points. Crew rules create limits. Airline operations create a recovery plan. But none of those tools work alone. People have to agree on what the information means and what to do next. This is called redundancy: multiple layers that keep a system operating when one layer fails. But redundancy is not magic. It usually means the system can continue at lower speed, lower volume, and with more human effort. The catch is that the shared vulnerability is not one machine. It is the pressure to move too fast when the picture is incomplete. A delayed flight is frustrating. A rushed decision based on bad information is worse. That is why the airport does not simply turn the radar back on and catch up. Recovery happens in stages. Aircraft are sequenced back in. Gates clear. Crews are reassigned. Passengers are rebooked. The system rebuilds trust before it rebuilds speed. That last step is why the recovery can feel slower than the failure. A screen can return in seconds. A schedule cannot. The airport must clear aircraft that are already waiting, verify which gates and crews are available, and make sure the new plan does not create another bottleneck 20 minutes later. The goal is not to make the departure board look normal. The goal is to make the next normal decision reliable. By the time your plane finally moves, the airport may look normal again. But normal is the result of thousands of small, cautious decisions. When an airport loses radar, the runway does not disappear. The shared picture does, and every level of aviation has to slow down until people can safely build it again. What system should we follow next when one piece suddenly fails?